Thank you for this month, for doing all this for someone like me. I really wish I could have given you more. What are you talking about? You always help me out. This is worth more than $60. After my father passed away, my mom has been living on her own in her family home, getting by on a pension of $1,000 a month. I've been sending her money as a form of support. But it wasn't just $60. Wait a minute, what do you mean $60? Well, you've been transferring it to me every month, haven't you? I did transfers, but I sent you $2,000, not $60. $2,000! Right before I started sending her money, we had a minor argument. We hadn't reconciled since, until today. I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't help wondering if someone did this to spite me. Yet, seeing my mom's shocked face, it didn't seem like she was lying. But then, how did this happen? Could there have been a mistake with the amount? That's impossible. Weren't you the one who transferred it? That's when something important dawned on me. How could I have forgotten something so simple? Right, that's what it was. Did you figure something out? Yes, I even know who did it. The culprit was someone close to us. So, I need your help with something, Mom. If there's anything I can do. That's how we started our plan. The first step was to hand over next month's money in person. This would reveal the perpetrator's actions and motives. And with that, our quest for revenge began. I'm Tabitha. I'm currently running a small clothing store I inherited from my father 2 years ago. I worked at a cosmetics company until I became 50. Then, my father passed away in a car accident. At first, the inheritance went to my mother, but considering her age among other things, I ended up taking over. Need any help? My husband Michael offered. He usually works as a construction site supervisor. He helps out whenever he can find the time. I was actually thinking of closing the shop, so we're good. Then let's head home together. Okay, just give me a moment. I married Michael when I was 24. It was arranged by a relative, but we hit it off right from the first meeting. It was a whirlwind romance. We married less than a month after we met. Especially in our younger days, we were known as the lovey-dovey couple around the neighborhood. I believe that hasn't changed even now. By the way, Kevin is visiting us soon. Really? Why does he never tell me these things? Maybe he's scared. Oh, come on! Kevin is our only son, now married and living in a different town. He visits us regularly but always seems to show up unexpectedly. And the following weekend, Kevin came over. I'm home. Huh? You're by yourself today? Yeah, my wife went out with some friends. I was on my own, so I thought I'd come over. Come on in. Your dad's waiting, too. Then I noticed Kevin looked a bit serious. Mom, I've got something important to talk about. Something important? Yeah, I'd prefer if it were just the two of us. While we were talking, my husband Michael came from the back. How long are you gonna stand there chatting? I'll be there in a minute. Mom, let's talk about what I mentioned earlier another time. Sure. I had never seen my son react this way before. I was curious but thought it might not be right to pry too much at the moment, so I let it be. How have you been lately? Oh, yeah, everything's going well. As we engaged in an ordinary parent-child conversation, a smartphone rang. Isn't that Dad's? Let me see. Michael stepped away, and after about 5 minutes, he came back. Looking slightly annoyed. Everything okay? I need to head to the office. Seems like there's some trouble there. That sounds serious. Kevin, you're here for a visit, take your time and relax. I will. After making sure my husband had left, Kevin resumed our earlier conversation. About what I was saying earlier, well, it's just a light rumor, so I'm not sure how true it is. What are you talking about? It's about Dad's company. A friend told me that it seems like the business isn't doing too well. Like going bankrupt? But it's just a rumor, right? Apparently, a former employee said that. And behind the scenes, they might be up to even worse stuff. That can't be true. At that moment, I was skeptical. Anyway, I think it's best we keep this to ourselves and not tell Dad. You're right. If something's up, he'll surely talk to us about it. Let's keep this between you and me for now. After Kevin left, I was alone at home, thinking about our conversation. We've always consulted each other about anything before. So, I decided to trust my husband. Then, one day, he came to me with a request. I've got a favor to ask. A favor? Well, if it's something I can do. I need to borrow some money. What for? I can't say. What? I can't lend you the money without an explanation. Please. He was prostrating himself, even shedding tears. I had never seen him like this in all our years of marriage. How much? $20,000. $20,000! I was shocked by the amount. I hesitated. I can't lend it to you without knowing what it's for. I'm sorry, but I just can't do it. Sure. I silently nodded. All right. With that, he said he was going out for a walk and left. As much as he's been my partner for years, some things just aren't that simple. At the same time, I received news that my mother had taken a fall. Rushing to the hospital, I found her in surprisingly good spirits. What happened? I just tripped over a step. Seeing my mother laugh it off, I couldn't help but lose my temper. This isn't funny. It might have been minor this time, but there's no need to get so mad. That's why I said we should live together after Dad died. But I refused, didn't I? After that, we had our first argument in years. Neither of us would budge, and we were at a stalemate. Is there really no way? I don't want to be a burden on you too. You shouldn't worry about that. And with your pension being just $1,000, life must be tough, right? Still, we can make it work with some budgeting. I made a proposal to my mother. Then, I'll start sending you money every month. How about that? All right. Then I'll start this month. 3 days later, my mother was discharged from the hospital. However, our relationship remained strained. Yet, my hope was that this would make things a bit easier for her. A few weeks later, I woke up to find my husband was not at home. He's usually sitting on the sofa reading the newspaper on weekends. I wondered if he had gone out somewhere. But, with time pressing, I left for the shop to start opening preparations. Arriving at the shop, I found the shutter open. Is anybody there? As I called out, I saw a figure in the back of the shop. Approaching cautiously, I realized it was my husband. Hey! What are you doing here? Oh, yeah. Just looking for something. Should I help look? No, it's okay. I've found it, he said, making me leave the shop. Wait a minute. What's up? If you're heading back home, there's something I'd like to ask. Oh, yeah? What's the favor? Actually, I've decided to start sending money to Mom from this month. Could you deposit it for me? Leave it to me. I handed him the money and asked him to make the deposit. It was a casual request at the time, but little did I know what it would lead to. Days passed without issue, but then I began to notice a change in my husband's behavior. I'm home. Welcome back. He was unusually cheerful that day. And he was carrying shopping bags in both hands. Here, a present for you. Is today a special occasion? Not really, but it's nice to do this once in a while, isn't it? The bag my husband handed me was filled haphazardly with high-end bags. What's going on? Well, I bought them, of course. I guess, but it's so sudden. I couldn't comprehend the situation in front of me. It was a pleasant surprise. But he had never given me so many gifts at once before. Moreover, he seemed to have been drinking, as the smell of alcohol was evident. Isn't this a bit too much drinking? Not at all. Your steps are even wobbly. It felt like it had been a while since I saw my husband drunk. I couldn't remember when, but he had stopped his nightly drinks that he used to have daily. I figured he must have bought these things on a drunken impulse. Anyway, should I get you some water? Yeah, please. He seemed quite drunk, sitting down at the entrance. I went to the kitchen and brought back a glass of water. Here. He drank the water quickly. I hoped it would help him settle down, but then he suddenly raised his voice and threw the cup against the wall. What's this? What are you doing? I asked for booze. What are you talking about? I said I was bringing water. Just bring the booze. He was clearly not aware of what he was saying anymore. Can you stop this? Are you defying me? That's not it at all. I'm just worried about you. But once agitated, my husband wouldn't calm down. Why do I have to go through this? What are you talking about? It seemed my words weren't reaching my husband. He continued to talk as if I wasn't even there. If only I had more money. At that moment, I remembered when he had previously asked to borrow $20,000. Money? When I asked back, he seemed to snap back to reality with a start. It's nothing. Forget what I just said. But forgetting was not something I could easily do. He stood up abruptly and went to the bedroom, ignoring me. Wait a minute. I tried to follow him, but to my dismay, he locked the bedroom door. Unable to enter, I ended up spending the night on the sofa. And the next morning. Hey. Good morning. You slept here? Well, I couldn't get into the bedroom. Sorry. He seemed unusually compliant. Perhaps the alcohol had fully worn off. It's okay. I'll be more careful from now on. Thinking this might be a good moment to ask about last night, I broached the subject. About what you said last night. Sorry, I don't remember much. Did I say something weird? Not exactly, but was there something bothering you? No, not really. At this point, he clearly avoided my gaze. What about the money? Oh, that should work out, so I'm gonna head out early today. Oh. Okay. He left the house early without even having breakfast. It was clear he was hiding something from me. But I still didn't know what. Unable to sit still, I reached out to my son. Sorry to call so early in the morning. It's fine, but what's up? I just needed to talk about something. I explained the unease I've been feeling lately. I see. I've tried to get the full story, but he either dodges the question or runs away from it. I don't know what to do. From what you've told me, it's clear he's hiding something. Finding a good solution seemed impossible, and I was at a loss. After a moment of silence, my son made a suggestion. Then, let me ask him directly. What? Being a man, maybe I can get him to open up. Do you think he'll talk to you? I'll do what I can. So, about the day. We came up with a plan. The execution day was set for Sunday, 2 weeks from now. Until then, we would be extra careful not to let my husband suspect anything. I'll be home late today. That's fine, but what about your return? I'm not sure. There's a company drinking party for the first time in a while. Don't drink too much like last time. I know. Oh, and please take care of this month too. I said, handing over an envelope. Got it. I saw my husband off, then headed to my shop. Next to my clothing store, there's an old butcher shop. That's been there since I was a child. It's run by the Nadies, an elderly couple. Tabitha, do you have a moment? Yes, what's up? Actually, there's something I've been meaning to talk about. I listened intently, wondering what this was about. A little while ago, I saw your husband in the shop, and something about his behavior caught my attention. That must have been when he said he was looking for something. Yes, he mentioned he was looking for something at that time. Really? I peeked in because I was curious and he seemed frantic. Frantic? I think he was towards the back of the shop, looking for something with such an intense expression that it actually scared me a bit. I see. Thank you for letting me know. But that issue has been resolved. Oh, is that so? I feel like I made a big deal out of it for nothing. No, not at all. I appreciate your concern. All right then, see you around. After ending the conversation, I headed to the back of the shop. There were a couple of simple desks with drawers in the back. Just to be sure, I checked the drawers, but they were all securely locked. The conversation had naturally ended, but I never got to ask what he was looking for. After finishing my work, I waited for my husband to return. He said he had a drinking party, so he might not come back yet. It was already 9 p.m. I passed the time reading a book. Looking at the clock, it was nearly midnight, and I was just about to go to bed. My husband returned. He didn't seem too drunk. Didn't drink much today? I caused enough trouble last time. I see. Oh, by the way, the butcher's wife asked me today about that time you were looking for something. Oh yeah, that happened. So, what were you looking for? Huh? I mean, I was just wondering what it was. I stared intently at my husband. Right, I never mentioned it. It was this. He showed me a watch he was wearing. So it was that. My question is answered. I smiled, but inside, I was thinking something different. The watch he showed wasn't with him at that time. He had said himself he bought the bags he came home with. Why go to such lengths to lie? Either way, I thought it was necessary to report this to my son. And then the promised Sunday arrived. Did you say he was coming today? I happen to have some errands nearby. Today's visit is just a side trip. Come on in, at least. Huh? But aren't you going out? I have some unavoidable errands to run. Oh, I see. Be careful then. I gave my son a look that said it was all up to him and left the house. His expression assured me he was on it. Furthermore, we left the smartphone on call, so I could listen in on the conversation between my son and husband. Pretending to leave was strategic, thinking it would coax the truth out more effectively. Soon, I could hear their conversation. Lately, Mom seems worried about you. Worried? Is there something you're aware of? I don't know what you mean. Besides, Mom isn't here, right? That's true. Can we keep this talk between us? Of course. I was a bit excited about what I might hear next. What my husband shared was something I had heard from my son before. The company hasn't been doing well lately. Employees are leaving one after the other. But you're still working there despite the situation? Well, yes, but I've been thinking of quitting. Continuing to work there will only trouble your mom. I had my doubts about my husband, but hearing those words brought a bit of relief. I see. But wouldn't it be better to talk about it more? Maybe, but it's hard to discuss in this uncertain state. I understand. I'll keep quiet about this. But you're planning to talk about it eventually, right? Yes. After that, they shared updates about their lives. It felt like a slight weight had been lifted off my heart. Well, I've got to go now. You're leaving already? I'll come back again. Take care. After leaving the house, my son called me. Were you listening? I heard everything perfectly. Well, that seems to be the situation. So, he wanted to borrow money before, that was because of this? Probably. For now, we might just have to watch and see. Here, I decided to tell him about the incident at the shop. Oh. I forgot there was something I hadn't told you. I explained about my husband's search. Mom, you should have told me sooner. I completely forgot. It's weird to say this, but the story might not be so simple. What? I don't have all the answers yet, but let me know right away if you notice anything else. Got it. After talking with my son for a while, I went back home. And from here on, I would come to know my husband's true intentions. With that knowledge, anger and a desire for revenge began to swell within me. Could you lend me just $400? $400? I forgot to make a payment, and I'll pay you back next week, please? You're going to pay it back for sure? Of course. I should have refused, but I ended up lending him the money. Deep down, I might have wanted to believe in my husband. And from here, my caution towards him began to fade. Because my husband did pay me back properly. Emboldened by this, he gradually began to ask for larger amounts of money. It must have been his strategy all along. Without realizing, I lent him money time and again. Hey, hurry up and prepare dinner. What? Didn't you say you'd eat out today? I never said that, did I? Stop complaining and hurry up with the preparations. Fine, I get it. For some reason, my husband had misunderstood something and started looking down on me, adopting a domineering attitude. He seemed to believe that he could borrow money from me if he asked. His erratic behavior continued unabated. Isn't it a bit too much to drink? When I returned from work, my husband had already started drinking in the evening, and there were empty beer cans and wine bottles scattered around. Too much? This is nothing. I realized that if things continued like this, it would be a repeat of the past. I began cleaning up. My husband, already intoxicated, threatened me with a bottle in hand, using harsh words. Listen carefully. If I decide to take action, this bottle is going to fly. Okay, just put down whatever you're holding. Then go buy some more alcohol. I did as my husband instructed and headed to the convenience store to buy more alcohol. As I stepped outside the house, I gazed at the starry sky above. I hadn't realized how beautiful the sky was. I got lost in the view for a while. Then, I received a call from my husband. Hello? Where are you? Did you buy the alcohol? I'm on my way to get it. Seriously, what are you doing? Hurry up and get it. I quickly bought the alcohol and returned home. I cautiously opened the door to the living room. I had expected to hear something from my husband, but he was sound asleep, peacefully snoring. I wondered what he was doing with himself and watched him with a mix of emotions. Feeling exhausted from my husband's tyranny, I received an unusual call from my mother. A phone call is quite rare. What's going on? Thank you every month for doing this for me. I wish I could give you more. What are you talking about? I'm always grateful. It's worth more than $60. Since my father passed away, my mother had been living alone in her childhood home, surviving on a monthly pension of $1,000. But I wasn't just giving her a mere $60. Wait a minute, what do you mean $60? You've been transferring it every month, haven't you? I did transfers, but I sent you $2,000, not $60. $2,000! Right before I started sending the money, we had a minor argument. We hadn't reconciled since then, until today. I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't help wondering if someone did this to spite me. Yet, hearing my mother's surprised reaction, it didn't seem like she was lying. But then, how did this happen? Could there have been a mistake with the amount? That's impossible. I made sure to give it in cash. Weren't you the one who transferred it? My mother's words reminded me of something important. How could I have forgotten something so simple? Right, that's what it was. Did you figure something out? Yes, I even know who did it. The culprit was someone close to us. So, I need your help with something, Mom. If there's anything I can do. That's how we started our plan. The first step was to hand over next month's money in person. Furthermore, I shared this fact with my son. He didn't seem surprised, in fact, he seemed to understand. And then the day of the next remittance arrived. It happened to be a holiday, and my husband was home but became restless around noon. Is something wrong? Why do you ask? You seem restless. Not at all. Really? Is something bothering you? I told you, nothing's wrong. His tone grew rougher, perhaps from irritation. That's when I deliberately brought up the subject of sending money. So, I'm going to see my mother. Did something happen to your mother? She's fine. I'm going today to give her money. You know, the monthly support we've been sending. Hearing this, my husband's eyes darted around. Then, I'll be off. He stopped me. Wait a moment. What? Never mind. If you have something to say, just spit it out. But my husband just mumbled, never getting to the point. Seeing him like this only made me more frustrated. After all the effort I'd put into setting this up. Thinking it was a waste of time to wait any longer, I decided to confront him directly. If you won't say it, then I will. You've been taking the money meant for my mother. That's not true. But I asked you to make the transfers. You might be lying. Are you seriously suggesting my mother is lying? Refusing to admit his fault, and even suspecting my innocent mother. There's a record of the transfers, so lying now is pointless. So, it was you, wasn't it? I did it. He finally confessed. Yet, many questions remained unanswered. What did you use it for? Remember when you bought all those things? Did you use the money for that? Yes, that's what I did. How could you? I'm sorry. I promise I'll pay it back. It's too late for apologies now. I contacted my son right then and there. 30 minutes later, he came. You told me to hurry, so here I am. Sorry for the sudden call. But, your dad confessed. I explained everything that had happened. I can't believe it. Grandma's money was used for that? Anyway, come with me. Bringing my son to the living room, we found my husband slumped over on the sofa. Why would you do such a foolish thing? I was already considering divorce. Just because the company is struggling, doesn't mean you should take someone else's money. Why did you do that? I've been suspicious for a while. Remember when Kevin came over? I heard everything then. But you weren't home. While you and Kevin were talking, I had the phone on the whole time. All that too? I figured you wouldn't tell me directly. As I pondered what to do next, my son chimed in. Can I say something? Dad, there's something I want to ask. What? I heard from Mom that you were looking for something? Yes. A watch. I immediately questioned him. But that watch was bought later, wasn't it? The timeline doesn't make sense. So, you were searching for something else, right? What were you really looking for? Despite being cornered, my husband remained silent. Mom, are you sure there's nothing you know? Wait a minute. I desperately racked my brain. Was there something in that shop that my husband would want? I check the cash register every day, so it can't be related to that. That leaves us with the contents of the desk. My husband, who had been in need of money, might be connected to this. Oh, could it be? Did you figure something out? I can't believe it, but what you took was the deed to the store, right? I didn't miss the slight twitch in my husband's shoulder. Looks like I hit the mark. I never expected you to go this far. This is a serious crime, you know. So, what did you do with it? I used it as collateral to borrow some money. What? And you have no way to pay it back? My head is spinning. Mom. My son supported me as I sat down. Anyway, call the police. The police. Why are you surprised? After what you've done, it's only natural. Later on, we reported it to the police with the help of our son. 15 minutes later, the police arrived, and the situation was explained. My husband admitted to his actions and was taken to the police station. However, this story didn't end there. Some days later, we received a call from the police, and what we heard was shocking. On that day, I decided to visit my husband. He looked completely worn out. How are you feeling? He didn't respond to my greeting. I heard from the police that you were involved in fraud. My husband widened his eyes and looked at me. You know that much? I got the details from the police. It seems that the company my husband worked for had been struggling financially for the past few years. They had even issued bad checks, and it seems they resorted to fraud. I never imagined my husband would get involved in that. No matter how desperate he was for money, getting involved in something like that was the end of the line. Anyway, you've become a criminal, so I'll be divorcing you through a lawyer. Divorce? Yes, it's unfortunate, but you should accept it. I got up and left the place. When I left the police station, my son was waiting outside. You're back quite early. I said what I needed to say. Indeed, you look relieved. Now, I need to apologize to my mother. In that case, I'll go with you. Thank you. And so, I headed to my parents' home. It's unusual for both of you to come together. We have something to report today, related to the financial support I've been providing. Then I'll explain various things from my end. And so, I explained the truth to my mother. She listened quietly without saying a word. That must have been tough. Despite also being a victim, my mother worried about me. Tears welled up in response to her kindness, but I held them back. I'll be able to continue providing financial support properly from now on. You don't have to push yourself. I'm not pushing myself. What about Michael? I'm planning to divorce him with the help of a lawyer. If that's your decision, I'll support you. Later on, the divorce was finalized. As a result, my husband's testimony led to the arrest of 7 individuals, including the president of the company he had worked for. They had wanted to deceive us. According to the lawyer, given the gravity of their crimes, they might even receive a prison sentence. It was painful to see my ex-husband become a criminal. But I couldn't forgive him. What are you going to do from now on, Mom? Well, I plan to continue running the store. But I'm worried if it's just me. If you want, you can move in with me. Don't worry about me. Besides, I have to take care of Mom. Living together sounds like a good idea. Additionally, I had the lawyer intervene, and the money my husband had borrowed using the store as collateral was partially forgiven. In the end, I decided to live with my mother. Initially, we settled things by continuing the financial support, but the idea of living together was suggested by my mother. We would hold hands and face the future together.